Today's High Performance Podcast is brought to you by Josh Phegan Digital. It's the only place to track and keep yourself accountable by looking at all of the essential numbers, from buyer appointments, market appraisals and listing appointments, to listings, sales and income, and working in 45-minute sessions. You'll find it all on Josh Phegan Digital. Welcome to High Performance, the podcast featuring Josh Phegan and Alexander Phillips. Alexander, we'd well and truly know that literally every market makes a market, and what you're seeing around the country is lots of different things that are actually happening. And what I'm saying to a lot of people is that we saw the cheapest ever capital that we've ever seen in recorded history in Australia only a few years back, when with record low interest rates. And we're now seeing the most expensive, money that we've actually seen in Australia for probably the course of the last 12 to 13 years. That is impacting how people actually want to go and spend money, particularly in what I go to call second home or discretionary markets, where it's kind of like the lifestyle of the weekender. And obviously there's lots of changes that are happening around the country. Some of that is restrictions on Airbnb, some of that is some prohibitive land tax stuff that's happening in Victoria, and ultimately that's meaning that for a lot of agents, the only buyers that are there are potentially going to be the locals, and some of those locals are much harder on price than maybe some of those buyers that might have come out of the city environments that had tons of cash to splash. How do you navigate some of those conditions, knowing that ultimately you're there, you've got to find the seller who really wants to sell, you've got to find the buyer who really wants to buy? What does Alexander Phillips do when he finds himself in some of those types of market conditions?
Josh, thanks for having me today. I think, it's good that you've brought up not just the buyer but the seller. So you're actually going to be pushing back on sellers and actually understanding how motivated they are, not just taking them on because they're, testing the market. So that actually, if I was in that marketplace, I'd be ensuring that the listings that you have on are priced to sell from the day they go on. So you're not, I was speaking to my brother William the other day, who works up in the Byron market, and we're talking about some agents. Average days on market are 120 days plus. And that's mainly because they haven't had the conversation before that, before they've taken on the vendor's property. So therefore they're, sitting on a house that, all they're doing is getting price reductions and, not dealing with a motivated vendor. And then the market's going, why has it been on for so long and what's wrong with it? So I think it's actually going in really well educated, explaining to that vendor what is actually happening in the market, that, hey guys, this, there's no longer Sydney or Melbourne buyers. This is the pool that we're dealing with. These are the top buyers that we're dealing with. This is what they're looking at. These are their price ranges. This is really where you need to be selling if you want to be sold the next 30 to 60 days. If not, come back to us when you're ready. So it's actually being smart, because I think when you do that, you're obviously going to keep having deal flow. The vendors are going to come to you and go, okay, this guy's actually giving me sound advice. They're actually... So many agents are just used to being yes people and going, yep, let's do this, let's do that, let's do what you want. No, but this is if you want to sell it, and I'm not taking on your business unless you're willing to sell it. They will actually respect that conversation.
And this is kind of an interesting conversation. I know Theo Chambers, a good friend of ours from Shore Financial, sent me a nice little chart the other day, and he said $1 million home loan was $3,672. That same $1 million home loan now is circa $5,964. So that's nearly up by 66%. A $4 million home loan was $14,000. Now that's $23,854. That's on principal and interest on a 30-year term. Alex, have we just got to the point in the cycle where people are very much, understanding that literally cheap money inflated a lot of property prices? All of a sudden, expensive money now actually makes people really buy what they're going to buy. And so from that point of view, the number of extra people that have got that fear of missing out, that are just going to pay silly money for anything, is kind of gone, and you've actually really got to go and demonstrate value. And I think that what your skill here is to understand is that ultimately, if you've gone from the cheapest money to the most expensive money that we've ever seen in the course of the last 13 or 14 years, the way that you do your buy work, the way that you actually propose and have those conversations with sellers is going to make a massive difference as a part of that conversation. Alex, one of the things that I'm seeing a lot of agents do is not really knowing what to do in terms of holding a campaign back and getting it right. And even if that's getting one or two buyers through at the photo shoot, that could be important to be able to get really good quality price feedback for your seller. And if you're in a position that all of a sudden you're seeing that a competitor is out there and they're just overlisting on properties, maybe you are actually better off being the second agent than necessarily being the first if you can't get control around what's actually happening. So the skill set of what a great agent is all about is about making sure that when you're reading the play of the day, Alex, here are the headwinds. We're seeing in Victoria, it's the land tax conversation, the changes with Airbnb. There's a conversation with the cost of capital. But this is what we're going to specifically do at PPD to actually get you sold. So we're looking specifically around our buy work, our sales process, our preparation work before we actually bring the listing live to market, to then make sure that you can go to get it sold. So I think, understand what the conditions of the day are, have better quality conversations with your sellers, and see whether or not you can land them on a much better quality result, because you know exactly what to do to navigate the conditions of the day.